Hey, Karen, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Cassie. Thanks for having me on.
I am thrilled to have you. As we were chatting before we hit record, you are the first food scientist that I have had on the show. It's a field that many of us don't even know exists. And so I thought we could open by you sharing a little overview about what exactly it means to be a food scientist.
hmm So, food science is a pretty broad field, and I would describe what I am as a food scientist. So, I'm a food scientist in the food and beverage industry, but I specialize in product development. So, that's my concentration. And what I do is basically turn food and beverage ideas into actual products that you can buy at the grocery store shelf. And at my current employer, I am focused on developing beverages right now. So that's what I do.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, beverages is a pretty broad category. Are we talking like energy drinks, wine and beer, soda? Or all of it?
Yeah, I would say I get to work on a lot of different subcategories of beverages. My specialty right now is vitamin enhanced beverages. And I also get to work on other types of beverage products as well. So, so I'm working on a kids beverage, for instance, so some colorful, fun stuff with some fun flavors. And I'm also working on a sparkling product as well. So a lot of different fun stuff and categories.
Fantastic. So, what does a typical day look like in your work life?
So I like that my day kind of varies depending on where I'm at in my project timelines. I normally juggle different types of projects, and I would say I have about three main environments where I split my time. I have my office, I have my lab, and then sometimes I'm in the manufacturing plant. I would say 60% of my time is spent in the office, 30% in the lab, and about 10% traveling to manufacturing plants. In the office, when I'm there, I'm doing a lot of the behind the scenes type work. So it's a lot of prep work, putting together the formulas I plan to test in the lab. So I'm working on spreadsheets. I'm doing some reading, some research on the ingredients I'll be working with. I'm building nutritional labels. If a customer I'm working with wants a product that's, say, like, less than 10 grams of sugar for a serving, I need to make sure that what I'm working on will meet that guardrail. And I'm collaborating with other food scientists. So food scientists do work with other food scientists from other companies, and we all have different concentrations. So if I'm working on some natural sweeteners, I'm collaborating with the ingredient suppliers for that and working with the food scientists to understand the functionalities of those and getting advice on like how to apply it to what I'm working on. And of course, there are the project meetings that I have to constantly hop on as well in the office. For the lab, this is where now I get to be more hands-on. I'm developing and testing the prototypes I planned out. I'm looking at, and this is the fun part. As a food scientist, you do have meetings where you're tasting stuff with your colleagues.
Ooh.
So, yeah, so when I'm developing these, I'll get feedback from my manager, I'll get feedback from my peers. I'll call the sales team over and say, hey, this is what your customers want me to work on. Can I get your feedback? So sometimes they'll pop in the lab and we'll look at things like the appearance, the color, talk about the flavor, mouthfeel, and I run the analytics. So the things you learn in school, pH, Brix, density, these things apply. And you're trying to understand how these connect with how the sensory attributes are coming out. And of course, conducting shelf life in the lab because, all the products, they're not going to last forever, but you're going to assess them and check them up to the end of the expiration date. And you're trying to see if there's an opportunity to reformulate them to make it more stable. And you're trying to understand how stable these products are. And I would say, for manufacturing plants, this is where the bulk of my travel is because these plants could be in the middle of nowhere. And this is where my airline points come in. And, a lot of times when I'm heading to a manufacturing plant, I'm flying there And this is when you're taking a finalized formula from your lab benchtop, and you're there to run batch trials and working with the manufacturing production team to make sure they could actually mass produce it. You don't want, something that they mass produce to turn out completely different from what you finalize on the benchtop. So you're working with them to make sure the process is there, the mixing instructions are proper, the specifications and the taste and aroma all are the same from what you developed.
That was such a good explanation. Like, I feel like I could be a fly on the wall in that experience and see all the things that you saw. Now, I'm curious it sounds like it's so different from some of the other science careers you hear about that say you're a geneticist and an independent contributor at a company. You're usually either on the discovery side or the development side or the manufacturing side. So it sounds like for you, you get to see a product through from discovery all the way through hitting the shelves, essentially. That's pretty
Mm-hmm.
incredible.
Yeah, I would say that's what makes this career unique for being a food scientist in product development. You really are there from beginning to end, turning an idea and concept and going through the product development life cycle. And then once it launches and gets on the grocery store shelf, that's when you're done. And you get to collaborate with so many different teams on this. And I think that's what makes it exciting, because you're going through the whole process from really the seed of, just an idea being planted to something actually tangible.
Oh, that's incredible. Now, how much direct interaction do you get with the client that's wanting to sell this beverage? Is it direct or does somebody else manage the client communications?
Mm-hmm. I would say, yeah, food scientists in my position, we work very closely with the sales team. So the sales team is there with their clients, and they interact. They're split into different channels, you could say. So some of them might work with club channels like Sam's Club or Costco. Others might work with retails like Walmart, for instance, and they're there to try to figure out what they want, and then the sales gets back to us. We put together a project brief and understand, like, okay, they want, say, a vitamin enhanced water. They want a chocolate donut flavor, for instance. They want it to be 0 calories, natural colors only. But they're the ones that communicate with us. And then, the food scientists are the magicians, you could essentially say, or the wizards or witches that brew up whatever it is. And we work closely with sales to ensure that we're getting the client what they need. We get them samples out, and the sales teams are the ones that are being prepped by us. We give them the guidance to be able to showcase these products out to their clients. And sometimes the food scientists will be flown out to meet with these, what we call buyers. And, sales, sometimes they want someone who's on a technical side to basically be there physically to support them. So sometimes I'm there and I'm setting up these samples and talking about the sample prototypes in front of them. So it's there to, we work closely together with sales, but it's mainly sales, and then food scientists are there as a technical backup support.
Yeah. Hey, that's a relief to some of the folks listening that don't want to have that client interaction. They'd rather do more of the science side of it. So
Yeah.
amazing. Now, for you, what would you say is the most enjoyable part of your job?
Mm-hmm. I think I love every part of it, but I think the moment I enjoy the most is when I see the actual product being launched, and it's like I go through my daily grocery shopping and I see my product on the shelf. And it's just really rewarding because I know the journey it took to get there, all the experimentation, working with the ingredients, the learnings, the frustrations, the many trials and errors, the constant learning, the you know lots of collaboration with our team members, like, because I know what it took to get that product out there. That's what makes it so meaningful. And I think that part is just kind of like cemented in, like, okay, yeah, it just reminds me, like, we did all this to get here. And I think that's the most enjoyable part, just seeing that tangible, product out there to indicate like we did this. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so cool. About how long does it take to go from idea to the shelf?
Wow. I mean, it really depends on how quickly certain clients move. Some of them are like, we need to launch by, like in 6 months or something. And then it's like, okay, this is what I'm prioritizing on. Some of them, they move kind of slow. Like some projects could change scope at any point. Like all of a sudden, they want to add coconut water to this, and that changes the project completely from the original scope.
Mm.
So that will extend the timeline, and it just really depends on the customer and how quickly the customer wants to move. If the customer is really locked in and they're giving really good feedback and they're on top of it and we're on top of it, then yeah, it could take, maybe 9 months on average. If some clients, they might change their mind or move a little slower. So some of these could take like, 2 years. So it really depends. Yeah, it just depends.
So, how many years now have you been in this role? And if you had to estimate how many products are now on the shelves due to your contribution, what would that be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've been in the food and beverage industry for about 11 years. I think I'm pushing towards 12. And I worked in different roles. In terms of like the actual products on the shelf, I think maybe about 15 actual products. But at the previous companies, when I worked in a flavor house before. So when I worked at a flavor house, I was developing the flavors that went into the actual product application. So it contributed to the products that went out to the market, but it wasn't my actual product. But for us, we were the food scientists that created the flavors. We were basically the ingredient food scientists that helped contribute the ingredients that needed to go into those products. So I'm not counting those because I can't keep up with
Okay.
where all the ingredients I developed are, but I know the ones I worked from start to finish. I would say about maybe like 15 to 20 roughly. So, mhm.
Oh, that's so incredible. Now, on the flip side, no job is perfect. So, what are the less appealing aspects of your work?
I think with every job, we have what I call the admin documentation part of the job. It's not the most exciting part of our days, but it's important because it's like, what I mean is like, okay, I have all my formulation specifications, like the pH levels, the bricks, the density, all of these, for instance, and I have the mixing instructions, and I'm going to put these into a software to get it set up. So then, the plants could basically have all the information. They could, input their recipe so they could run it. It's just about like being able to set things up so then you could actually launch the products and mass produce it. It's important, but of course it's not so fun to. It kind of feels a bit like data entry, right? But these are important information that you need to be able to actually,
sure.
Mass produce the products. So yeah, the setup admin part is always a little, boring.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like listening back to all the conversations I've had on this podcast, that's a common denominator is the documentation admin side of things. And so, based on your experience so far, do you see any opportunities for AI to kind of take away the hurt of that aspect of your job at all?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something I'm incredibly thankful that my company is very progressive about. I know my department and we were brainstorming. We took a few hours one day to just brainstorm, like, what is our biggest pain points that we could leverage AI to do for us. So we could do more of, you know, the thought leadership instead of like the admin stuff. What could we, focus more on? Um, so yeah, definitely there's, I think, opportunities we're still exploring for that because we want to work more efficiently and we want to, maximize our time as actual food scientists using our brain power, and not the data entry admin part. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Now, for the students and early career professionals listening, are there particular AI tools that seem to be the most exciting for your peers and your industry as a whole?
I know that the Institute of Food Technologists, which is basically a global like food industry organization and forum, they started putting together something that's like a co-scientist or co-product developer thing. So I haven't looked into it yet. My company hasn't yet, but it is something that I brought up, and it seems pretty interesting to have kind of like a co-scientist. And you could basically, I think it has ways to help you understand how to cut down on the number of trials you do. It could help with design of experiment, and this just cuts down the number of rounds of trials you have to do on the bench top. So it is quite interesting, and I think this is the future we're looking towards. So for all aspiring students, I think it'll be good to look into what IFT, Institute of Food Technologists, has available on the AI side, especially if you're interested in product development. It seems like they have like a co-product development, co-scientist type AI tool that's out. So
Oh, great to know. We'll definitely encourage those listening to check that
mm-hmm.
out. Um, so I want to go back in time a little bit to early childhood Karen. And so I'm curious, what is the first thing you remember wanting to be when you grew up? I highly doubt it was food scientist because most of us had never heard of it at that
Yeah,
point.
what is that?
But how did your career evolve since then to shift you towards food
Mm-hmm.
scientist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was young, I remember just, believe it or not, I just wanted to be some kind of scientist, like mad scientist of some sort. And to me, I just thought, I mean, you have a job to basically discover things or figure things out, be innovative, and it's like a lifelong, job to basically figure things out and discover and learn new things. And I thought that was really cool. And I think at one point I wanted to be an astronomer because space is just so cool and mysterious. There are just so many unknowns, and that really captivated me. So I remember at the time I think I did want to be an astronomer. um, but I ended up not becoming an astronomer. And I would say in undergrad, I started off as a pre-med student. I didn't know what other STEM fields there were available, but I just knew if I started off as pre-med, I was taking all the core science classes that you need to take that would apply to all of the science majors anyway. So I thought, okay, that's kind of safe. I needed to take some general education courses to fulfill the curriculum. And my friend was like, hey, you should take intro to food science class. And I took it and I was like, huh, that's interesting. I never realized how all the core sciences of chemistry, physics, engineering, biology could all be applied to something so practical and universal, food. And it hit me. I was like, you know what? No matter what is going on in the economy, food is a constant necessity. And I wanted to work in a field where I could make a global positive impact because food is just so universal. And speaking of economy, it is interesting because, unfortunately, while a lot of people were laid off during COVID, that was the time when I actually found a new job. And,
Mm.
it's just interesting how, like, food is always going to be there. It's a need. People need to be fed. So, and that's what I realized. Mm-hmm.
That is incredible. And kudos to that friend who opened you up to what turned out to be your career dream. I love
Yeah.
it. Um, well, and it's interesting too because, okay, yeah, you didn't become an astronomer, but there's some elements of astronomy that you are doing in terms of that discovery. You're creating things that have never existed before, right? Which is pretty incredible if you think about it. Like everything out in the universe exists already. You're creating some combination of things that doesn't exist, which is
Mm-hmm.
really exciting. And for a lot of us scientists, we always want to leave some sort of legacy or impact
Yeah.
on the world. right? And
Exactly.
these things will probably live the test of time, at least for a good chunk of our
Mm-hmm.
history. So,
Mm-hmm.
mm. So, Karen, I know a little bit about your background, and I know that we have a lot of first generation students listening right now. And so I was
Yeah.
hoping you could kind of speak to that element of your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say that does touch upon one of the major milestones for me personally. And I would say, yeah, I was the first in my family to also graduate from high school, believe it or not. So, high
Wow.
school, college, and graduate school. But they were, major educational milestones that led me to my career journey. And I didn't know what direction I wanted to go. I just knew, I was, my parents worked hard, and I just knew I had an opportunity to do something my parents didn't get to. And undergrad was what gave me the exposure to career fields I never knew existed. I know we talked about how they were just, I mean, science is so broad. There's so many different fields
Mhm.
that we're not aware of. But because of going to, undergrad, and I went to UC Davis where food science happened to be available. Uh, because of that, like I was exposed to food science. And yeah, that became the start of my journey for my career.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think not a lot of us think about that at that stage of our careers when you're leaving high school and heading to college and thinking about, what colleges to apply to. A lot of folks that I talk to, it comes down to two things. It's either money or the sports team. So I always find that quite entertaining to kind of talk through of like, oh, are you going to play for that sports team and like go to the NBA? And no, that's not part of your career. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So then talking through the academic programs, and I went to a small liberal arts school, which gave me so much exposure to a variety of fields, even outside of science, which I think actually helped me be a better scientist in the end. And it sounds like I didn't have anything like food science, though, at my tiny school. So, also thinking about what the large schools have to offer in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the number of different majors, which to a student can feel very overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But hearing you kind of share, I chose pre med to play it safe. Like anyone listening, they're like, wait, to play it safe. But yeah, because you do have to take so many of the
Mm-hmm.
prerequisites that are going to overlap for most of the science disciplines, right? And so having to take some electives allowed you to have the
To,
opportunity to take
yeah,
something like food science. So, ah, I
yeah,
mean,
to
I'm
really
just so
explore.
impressed by you and how you navigated all this, not having anyone in your family that had taken this path before. So, how did you figure it out?
Mm-hmm. I, and yeah, I mean, to all the folks who are first generation college students right now, I would say, just being able to go to college, and making sure that you do explore and give yourself the exposure to different classes. Like, I know there are people I went to school with who thought, yeah, for sure, I'm going to go to law school. A lot of people were dead set on that, for instance. They ended up not doing law because they fell in love with something else. And I would say, yeah, to all you know, the first generation students, make sure I know the general education class curriculum, it seems kind of silly, but use that as a chance to expose yourself to different fields because you never know what your interests are unless you try it first. And because your parents aren't aware of all the fields available, use that chance to basically allow yourself to explore. And, I think you'll learn a lot about your values, a lot about your own interests. And even if you don't like most of the classes that you take and expose yourself to, it's still a good learning because at least you know what you don't like and you get closer to understanding your own interests and what you do value and what you do like because of that. So yeah, definitely, yeah, continue to expose yourself to as many different things as you can in college. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I took world religions. I took Lego robotics. I took racquetball. Like I took some random classes. But the thing that I love to tell my clients is that your technical skills may land you an opportunity, but it's really your soft skills that allow you to thrive and be successful in them. And so some of these other courses really help build those skills because it's not in an area that you're
Mm-hmm.
technically savvy in, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
you're really leaning into those soft skills more than ever. And it's such a powerful part of your career journey. And I want to hear more of yours. Okay, so we had college, and then I know a master's degree is in here somewhere. Did you go
Oh,
directly to
yes.
that, or did you work for a bit?
Yeah, I in my undergrad, I didn't get a chance to do any research. So I thought, you know what? Um, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. So, I want to see if is academia something I want to do. I don't know. Well, let's expose myself and explore some more. So I applied to graduate school and I had the opportunity to conduct a food science research and was able to actually publish my work in a scientific journal. And yeah, that was a big accomplishment and it helped me build my technical foundations even more specifically towards food science. And it helped me also learn that I don't think I want to go into academia. So, yeah, so there are wins in those ways. Like you learn more about what you want to do, what
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to do. And it helps enforce the fact that, okay, I think I want to work in the industry. And that's a good thing. Like I learned more about myself and what I wanted to do. Um, and I would say, I think another milestone would be when I did an internship, and it was focused on product development. And I would say that experience did confirm my passion for what I'm doing today. It combined all the scientific learnings from my schooling. I got to do the experimentation and I understood how you could turn innovative ideas into real products. So it was applying all those things from like undergrad, from grad school to an internship experience. Um, and the internship experience just kind of confirmed like, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do. And of course, you know, I think one major milestone I like to talk about is just launching your first product. Seeing that product on the
Mm.
shelf, that was a major career milestone. I think knowing how much I love product development and what I do, but being able to see that first product, um, it was incredibly rewarding because it really solidified to me that I was in the right field for me.
Absolutely. And that's something astronomy probably couldn't give you, right? Because the time scale in which those things happened is more than our lifetime, right? So
Yeah.
you pick the right field for that, seeing the
Yeah.
fruits of your labor while we're alive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll dive more into the details of those milestones in the extended interview, but I want to
Mm-hmm.
leave you an opportunity for those that are listening right now. What else would you like to share with them about your
Mm-hmm.
journey and how to be successful in this career?
Yeah, I would say, for those who are interested in pursuing this career path, um, is, definitely pursue internships within food science, but, you know, expose yourself to different concentrations of food science. So for me, my focus is on product development, but other concentrations include quality and food safety. There's food engineering and processing, sensory science. There's the regulatory side. There's food microbiology. And you want to expose yourself to internships of those different concentrations to really understand your more specific interests within food science. And I also recommend exploring different sectors of the food industry. There's dairy and alcohol, and produce, flavors, beverages. There's so many different things. And, this could help you understand what career direction and focus you want to be in. I mean, if you want to work with dairy, you're probably going to be in Wisconsin, So these are kind of like big things. Big. I mean, the knowledge for you is huge, and it determines where you probably will live and where your opportunities will be. So, and I would say especially for those who are students. I wish that I had known that academics alone, you know, I wish I'd known earlier that that wasn't enough. Like, yes, doing well in school is important, but gaining real world experience through internships that I talked about during undergrad is also really important. And I think it was even more apparent for me when I was in grad school. A lot of my peers were at least part time to full time employees while they were doing part time grad school. And at the time, I didn't understand it, but this was a very critical thing. And this is how you start building your network and understanding how the industry actually works. So the sooner you could do that, the better. And I was very focused on academics because that was the guidance I received. And I think a lot of, perhaps a lot of the first generation students might go through the same thing. I think because our parents they haven't experienced this, and because the first generation students are the ones going through it first, we're usually told, okay, study hard, get good grades, put your head down, and a great job will follow. But what I saw later, especially in grad school, like I mentioned, you know, even though my peers and I graduate with the same degree, the ones who were at least working part-time or full-time and only studying the master's degree part-time, they were already ahead in their careers. And it might not seem like a lot, but 2 years, I mean, that's a lot of experience in there. And they already had built like industry connections, expanded their network. And this is how your career journey compounds. Your degree, in the end, you know, everyone gets the same degree, but the amount of time you have, if you can get started sooner, it's better because, like I said, you could grow your network. You get more of that industry experience that will help compound for your journey. And if I could do it all over again, I would definitely prioritize getting more hands-on experience much earlier and be more intentional about building my network alongside my education and getting more of that real world experience.
Nailed it. Nothing I need to add to that. I agree 100%. Get that experience early for multiple reasons, not just to get ahead in your career, but to explore. Maybe like Karen was talking about with those different specialties. What a great opportunity to kind of
Mm-hmm.
figure out and narrow in on what that might look like for
Mm-hmm.
you. Ah,
Yeah.
so good.